Okay. So yeah, so we just started the recording. So as you can see here, these are the files. Let me zoom in. Command. We just zoom in from here, so you guys can see a little bit clearer. So on the right side is the browser. Basically, this is what's going to show when you run your app. On the left side is your file. It's just like your editor. So this is your file browser or files, and here's your editor. And once you change something, it will show you that circle thing. That means you have to save it. You can go to File, Save, and that will save. Or just like usually, Command S or Control S. So now we have an empty thing right here. So we can change it here to something like school review lesson review. Okay, you could just edit here too. I think it's way too zoomed in, so let me just zoom out for like just like that. Okay, and here you can go to view and toggle word wrap so it doesn't take the whole thing. And here we just say lesson 1 review. Okay, so now we understand the setup of what this is. The index is where basically the React app touches or goes into the index.html. So as you can see here, it gives you a couple of things here, but the main thing is this thing, document.element by root ID. And if you go to the HTML file, you see that there is a root file. And this is where everything that React does, this is where it goes to, that root. So you don't touch this HTML file, except like if you want to change this to something else. But other than that, you don't touch it. So on this thing, we explained a little bit yesterday. React has something called React Virtual DOM. So if we go to here, React Virtual DOM is a way for React to connect to the normal DOM. Remember, we have the DOM. So if you go to inspect, and you go to console, and you put document, just like that. This is the DOM. The document is the DOM. If you say enter, it gives you the tree, all the nodes of the DOM, and you guys know about that. How to manipulate it, how to add something to it. Create element is a way to add something. A query selector is a way to select something from the DOM, all that good stuff. So the thing about React is that it has its own virtual DOM. So it's a different DOM that it created, but it's not changing the physical DOM. It's basically it's reacting to it. So every time something changes in the website or in the data. So let's say I was actually in here. I was just going through the Somali programmers group. So let's say you like something. So actually, the Facebook is the one that created React. So the reason they create is because they need to. There's a lot of things happening in your page. There's like notifications come in. There's different things happening. So you wanna the whole page to react differently in different places. So let's say we do a like. So this like when we click it, it just changes this number. So you can see when we unlike it, it's 100. When we like it, it's 101. Nothing changed in the page. The only thing that changed was the like changed the color, and then the number increased to 101. And that's what you guys were doing, like the increasing the number. And also the next assignment, you guys gonna build a Instagram clone. So you're graduating from like basic things to actual building the clone. Obviously, you're not gonna build every part of it. We're gonna piece it so that we're gonna take some parts of it so that you don't get overwhelmed. But you're gonna be building this. You're gonna be implementing this like feature, right? And it's all about just clicking. So this is basically a click. So it's on click. and then every time you do the onClick, you change it to CSS, and then you increase this number. But in Facebook, this is being recorded in the database. So every time there's a change, it goes into the database. It says who did the like, what is the like, where is it, what is the post, all that stuff, what time the like happened, all that good stuff. So the changes that are happening, I just showed you the like, is the virtual DOM is looking at the actual DOM, which is the one we clicked. So when the click happens, the browser or the website says, oh, there is a change. And then React says, okay, yes, I see that change. So I'm going to go ahead and change only the part that change affects, not the whole website. But this DOM, the browser DOM, every time there's a change, it refreshes the whole website. So that's the problem with this DOM. And then that's really slow, that's inefficient. It takes a lot of space, it slows down, especially if you have hundreds of things happening at the same time, or you have maybe 20 things happening at the same time. There's a notification coming, there is someone liking, there is someone leaving a comment and you see the comment. There's different things happening. You don't want that thing to refresh the whole page all the time. So that's why there's a virtual DOM. So where was it? Okay, let's go back to here. Yeah. So React DOM, this React DOM thing is the virtual DOM basically of React. And then it renders this, it renders the app, this component. So this is the app right here. And the way to render this is first you have to import it. This is how you import app. And by importing, basically it means you just say import app, you give it the name of the component from, and then you give it the route. So giving this path or route, the first thing to keep in mind is that you start with a dot, and then after that you say slash. So now this is basically your same directory. So we're in the index.js. You're basically saying find anything that's in the same directory as where we are. If you say dot slash, you're basically saying go out of one directory. So leave the directory we're in right now and go outside and find something from outside. So as you can see, we see the public, which is out here. We see node modules, which we don't see it here, but it's there. And then the source, which is the one we're in. So that's how you track different things. Also, if you want to go outside of this, basically, and go to other folders, you say dot slash. And that will take you all the way to outside. And as you can see here, they're actually telling us that they use VS Code for this, which is interesting. Even if you're going to go all the way out, you can just do that. And if there's nothing, it will not let you keep going like that. So that's kind of like how to change the different, how to track where you want to get something from. Okay, so that's the index. So here let's add something to it. So we want to have maybe let's have a counter. Okay, not a counter, but like a click that increases the number. Maybe let's have like a score, some type of score. So maybe let's create 2 teams and then maybe increase the score. I think that's kind of like the assignment, but I'm going to do it in like a little bit different. It's not going to be exact the same. You guys going to have different files, different components to change things. So this is going to be different. So to do that, we need to use a state or use a state. So use a state is every component has its own state. The reason why this error is shown is because we have to kind of save it first. The state means every component can have its own state, meaning the condition of the component. What is the component showing? Like right now, this component doesn't have any state. This is called stateless component, right? All it's doing is it's rendering like a couple of H1s, H2s. So to create a state, you have to use a state, and that's only for functions. If you have classes, you use something else, you use state. So we could do both. We could try both. So let's convert this to a class so you guys can see. So we say class app, and then we say just app extends, and then we say okay, and then we say React. So it's extends React. I think it's React component. Okay. Now this is basically, as you guys remember, extends, and we did talk about in the lecture. Extends, when you say extends, it means this class is a child, right? It's a child of React component. And React component is basically, it's basically the normal React, like right here. Where is it? So this is React. You could import it here. We could import it right here. So we could say import React. They already did that for us, but we could just say import React from React. So now we have the class here. We have to say render. That's one of the things that class needs to have. So we have to say render, and render is a function. So, and we have to open it here and then put the return inside the render. Okay. And we have an error too. Okay, let's save it. So we have an error. Okay. App. Okay, we have to export it, right? Every time you create a component, you have to export. Otherwise, other apps don't know if that if this component actually exists. You say export default and then the app name. You save it. So as you can see, it's working now. So this is a class, right? So keep in mind that you will see a lot of times you see class, especially because class was before functions. So functions, before we were using functions, and you could actually like Google when React introduced functions. It wasn't that long time ago. It was just let's see. So React itself was introduced 2011. Let's see. React function components. Okay. So yeah, so function components were from 2015, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but it was introduced after. So React started with class, and for a while, for many years, people were just using class. And if you go to like big projects, if you go to projects that are using React from the beginning, they're all using class. So, but now things change to function, because functions are a little bit easier to understand. It's also easier to predict. They're also pure. Basically, they're fundamental to JavaScript. Classes are not fundamental to JavaScript. Remember, we said that classes are like underneath the hood. Classes are prototypes, right? They're just prototypes, but we're kind of covering the prototypes with class, so it looks nicer. So there are languages like Java that have like pure class that don't have anything underneath. It's just class. It's part of the language, but JavaScript class are not part of the language. So it's kind of like people are moving away from it. I don't know the many reasons why they're moving away from it, but we're moving away from classes. And if you want to create a stateful class, you have to create a constructor first. So I mean, you could do without constructor. It's best to do a constructor. And you guys learned this before. And here you can put props if you want, but you guys will learn props later. So next lesson. And here we just create the state. So we say this dot state is equal to whatever we want, or we just say, did I spell constructor right? Constructor. Oh yeah, we need something called super. So you guys learned the super. So remember, who can tell me why are we using super? What is the reason why we're using super? What is the main reason?
because of the u- using as a child, extension you
So
have to
so
have
app
extension.
is a child of React, right? So super means it's basically grabbing everything from React that component, which is something that we don't know anything about, but we know that if we use it, it's going to create the React for us, which is it's going to give us like this HTML that we can actually return. Remember that the normal classes we couldn't even like we can't return HTML. You can't do that. You could use methods like like function methods. You could create a constructor and have like your attributes set up, and then after that's it. You have nothing else to do, and then you could use your attributes to do something under your methods. But this one, we're returning JSX, which is normal it looks like HTML. So that's what React component gives us abilities. Okay, so super, we're grabbing everything in there, and now we could just set the state here. We could just say set state. Actually, we didn't go over this the in the lecture, so you guys this is the first time we're talking about the class basically. So this dot state is you don't need to use state from here, because when you have a class, you don't need use state. You don't need to set up the use state. Your use state is this. So remember in class in the function we said constant, and then we gave like score, set the score, and then we said equal to use state, right? And then here we could just put something like whatever you want, like the score, 0, starting from 0. So this is equal to this, right? So instead of using these two, the class has something called set state, right? It's there already. You don't need to create it like this. You don't need to mention it. So if you want to change something from this is state, you just use set state, and then you change your state to whatever, right? So that's what the class has. So let me actually comment that. Class has set state, where functions, you need to create your, you need to create a variable to change the state, right? So this is what you need to create to add here to change the state. This is your current state, which is this, and then to change it, you use this. So instead of this, we could actually just do the same thing as the one below. We could just say that 0. You could do that too, just like this. Usually in the state, you put it in, you put it a, what do you call, a object. Okay. So we're not using this, so we're just gonna comment it out. And we might actually create another component so that we keep this the way it is. All right, so we have a 0 here, which is good. Now we can do the same thing we did for the last time, like increasing the number, right? So right here we have this set state. You could do different things. So in this set state, you could put something else in here. You could just say something like, so you could create another component here, but we're just going to keep it to 0, so you guys don't get confused with this. Is exactly how you learn in the lesson. So now for us to increase something, we need to create a couple of things. We need to create a button, and what do we want to increment? So right here, and keep in mind that anytime you're using React, you have to have a parent. You have to have a parent thing here. It doesn't have to be div. It could be anything, but it has to be a parent, and you have to have a children. I mean, you don't have to have a children, but always everything has to come underneath one thing. All right. So here, let's just create a paragraph, and say here something like the score is, and then score is like, let's say 5. We're just going to change that. This is hard coded now. we could like change it, we could change it to CSS and stuff. We don't have to, right? So, and we could just put here span and give it a class name. So whenever you're giving something a class in React, you have to say class name and give it something like score. And we can put some CSS there. Put the closing span here. And remember that span is a inline, so that's why we're using it. So save that. And we can go to CSS here, which we're using right here. So this is how you import the CSS. Just go here and give it like dot score. Maybe let's say color red. Let's say font weight, maybe font weight. This is normal CSS, so this is not a JavaScript CSS. Font weight bold. Let's say, let's give it a maybe a background. Black. No, that's not gonna make sense. Let's give it the background of something like let's give it a blue, not blue, light blue, and then give it a padding, maybe like 10 pixels. Oh, didn't give the close in here. So something like that. I mean, we're just playing around, but that's kind of like just some CSS you could do. So you could use normal CSS here. You don't have to like use JavaScript CSS. So, okay, so now we have that. How do we increment it? How do we increment this? So we need a button to increment it, right? So we're going to create a button. We're just going to give it add one button. Okay. So it says add one, but it does nothing, right? And also, how do we? Okay. So here is. I think you guys haven't seen the class, so it will not be fair to ask. But just out of like guessing, how do we show the actual state instead of like the hard-coded 5?
Initial state.
What is that?
Initial state.
So initial state, okay, that makes sense. But we don't have any initial state. We didn't create any initial state. We just want to show this 0 right here instead of the 5 we had. What do you think? Remember that when you're using class, you always have to use this, right? To refer to like the app, the main class. So, but how do we put JavaScript within here? Because this isn't like similar to HTML. It will not accept if we just say this. That will not work. It will just show this here. How do we render JavaScript? If you look back at the lesson notes, you'll see how we did it. So every time you want to put something, any JavaScript in here, you have to have that curly brackets. That's basically telling the JSX that this is going to be a JavaScript, right? So this is going to be a JavaScript. So we have to say this dot state. And that's it. That's how easy it is. This dot state. So we're just grabbing this dot state. Remember, we're still in the class. We're not outside of the class, right? So remember how we did the methods. So remember, one of the methods I think was something like eat, and we just you just do that, and then you do something here, return it. But if we want to grab something from here, we just say this dot name. Remember, we're just doing the same thing. There's nothing different. But now we're in the HTML here, JSX. So now this is the state. So if we change this now to 10, we should change it here to 10. Okay. So now all we need is just to increment it. We need to use this button. Who can guide me? It's the same thing as a lesson.
On click, equal,
On click, okay.
equal,
Mm-hmm.
curly bracket,
Mm-hmm.
and
What else do we put here?
+1.
+1, like that.
Yeah, I think,
Okay. So let's try now. Let's say add, giving us error. It says expected listener, on-click listener to be function instead of a value number. It's basically saying on-click has to have a callback function inside it.
so square bracket, then
Like that.
yeah, and then callback function,
An arrow function.
wait,
Okay.
arrow function, and then you call the what was it?
Remember we use set
This-
state instead of like the
Yeah,
similar to this. So if you want to change the state in class, well, you just use set state. It's already built in.
state,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we
that's
say
state.
And remember, anything you call in class, what do? We just did this here. So we say
Curly
this, right?
bracket.
We say this.
Yeah, this.
Yeah, because anything in the class, you have to say this, especially if it's a method. And here, okay. So what do we do here?
Increment.
So now we have a method that changes the state for us, but we have to pass something to it.
Pass the argument of the what do you want to set it? How much you want to increment it?
Okay. So like +1. Is that how we do it? How do we do it? It was we did it in the assignment. So you have to first choose the state that we have, like the current state. What is our current state right now? What is our current state? It says here our current state is 0, but so that state is our current state, right?
Yeah, this state +1.
+1. Okay, I think that should work. So we say add. Oh, it gave us error. Takes an object of state variables to update the function which returns object to state. Okay, so instead of so this is the way we did it in the function, but in class we have to pass the, so say basically it takes an object, so it takes an object instead of a value. So this here we have to say so instead of saying this, we just say okay, instead of that, actually we have to, okay, let's just go back. So this says state, we have to say this, put it here, put another one here, and then after that we have to say let's say 1. No, actually, all right, let's actually go back. Let's go to the syntax. I'm actually forgetting myself because I haven't used any class for a very long time. Okay, React class component and increment. I don't know how to spell increment. Increment in state value. Okay, so we're just exploring ourselves. So So for us to change, you have to say this set state, and it shows previous state. Okay, so they're using function, but we don't want to use a function. We just want to use an inline. Okay, there's different ways to do it. We're not incrementing a prop. So there's different ways to do it. So this one they're calling a function outside. So you could do a function, but this is what we need. So we need to just this is what we did actually, but it's not letting us. So we have to change the outer state basically. We have to change our state to match what we need. So instead of saying this is equal to that, we could just say we give it a method, we give it an object, and then we say something like score is equal to 0, right? And here, instead of calling this that says state, we just say dot score. Okay, that's going to be 0. And then we just do this same thing here. So it's the same thing, just we have to use object when it comes to class. So instead of that, we just say this one is a score. So hopefully this works. Okay. So now if we increase it, it should increase normal. Okay. So this was the class, and we're gonna save it, but we're gonna do the function one too. So you guys can understand like how these two work together.
Can you go over? Can you go over the button click? I can implement like.
Okay.
Yeah, like.
So
like
we use
it grabbing the.
Where's it grabbing the score?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did just a normal on click, and then we give it a callback function, which is this. This is the callback function. So the callback function, we said this dot set state, and set state is a method within the class that changes the state. It updates the state. So just like we use the set score in the function, which updates the score, we're using set state. All right. So and then we passed a object. So this is a normal object. So let me just clarify so you guys can see this is the actual object. So that's just a normal object. So there's one object, right? The object, the key is a score, and the value is the current score plus 1. So all we're doing is just passing instead of the function component where we just passed we passed the score plus 1. This one we pass in the state and also the score, which is this. So this is the state, this is the score, and we're passing it right here. And then we're just saying that score plus 1. So you don't have to like worry about the class. You just have to understand like you can do it this way too, and you will see it a lot of times this way. So even some of the assignments coming up might have a class instead of a function. But now, any other question of like how this is set up before we move on to function? And if you want to just increase it by another number, you just change it here by 5. And then that will increase it by 5. Okay, let's create a function one. So we're just going to call this one app function. Okay, .js. We're just going to use the same setup here. So I'm just going to do the import React from React. And also I'm gonna kind of tweak it a little bit. We're gonna use a arrow function instead of the normal function. So the arrow function, okay, how do we set up the arrow function? What do we start with? Who can tell me? And it's giving us this because we didn't use it. So it's saying you declared, but you never used it. So if you want to create an arrow function, where do we start? Okay.
You're gonna say function.
We're gonna say function. Remember, arrow functions, they don't have the keyword function, right? They
So
might
maybe we're gonna start with the empty parentheses.
Empty parentheses, and then the arrow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good start. That's a good start, but this has no name, so we have to give it a name. So we say constant. Let's say app is equal to, right? So now we give it the name of app. This is same as saying function app and then opening it. It's exactly the same. These are two exact the same, right? So now we have to also export. Export, before you forget, always export your app, your component. All right, so within here, we're gonna create the same thing we did in the class. So all we need now is we just first return. We return everything, and then we set up our HTML, our JSX. So here we say div and closing div. You have to have a parent element, and here we just put like h1. We're just going to call it review, shorten it h1. Okay, so now we save this, but we're not calling this anywhere, so it's not going to show anywhere. And also it's better, like actually we have to change the name to something else. Let's call it function, because we already have app and it's going to conflict with that one. So we have to show it somewhere. It's not showing anywhere here. And to show it, we have to go here and show it here. We have to like pass it here like that, right? So instead of this, we're going to pass app function here. But it's going to give us an error. Why is it giving us error? What do you guys think?
Because you didn't import it.
We didn't import it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because we didn't import it. So right here, as you can see, it's importing app, but it's not importing app function. So we have to change that. So app function. And then here we also have to say app function. I mean, the name here doesn't matter. You can name it whatever you want here, but it has to be same as this one. Okay. Must be in Pascal's. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like asking us not to use the underscore. So keep in mind that when you're creating apps, when you're creating components, make sure you don't have underscores. Just it's not going to give you error. It's just the way React kind of like does things. So we have the review here. Everything is good.
We use a dot, right?
No. So if you use a dot, it will confuse with the .js. So if we put dot here, it will say, what is this? I don't know what file extension this is. So it will say, oh, this is a dot function. I don't know what that function is. So make sure you use either underscore or nothing, just like that. Camel case, basically.
Okay.
So here we could just import the CSS if we want. We could just say import from, you could just say import, just import, right? That's how it is here. Yeah, just import and then the CSS file, which is styles.css. And then we give it a class here. We're gonna give the class this class app. So it centers things for us. Class name, app, just like that. All right, So now we're just gonna do our state and things like that. So how do we do state in function component? What's the first step? What's the first step in creating a state in here? Remember
Import use state.
import. Yep, import is the first step. So import use state. And who can tell me what is use state? What is it called? The like these kind of things in React, what are they called? Like use state, there's another ones, a few others.
Hooks.
Hooks, yeah. Yep, they're called hooks. So if you go to, if you put React hooks, these are React hooks, hooks at a glance. You can see use state is a hook. There is few others. There is also use effect, which is also a hook. This is, yep, use effect is a hook, which we will learn. These are the two most used is use state and use effect. There's few others, but a lot of people don't use those. So these, if you learn these two, you'll be in good hands. So you will know what to do. Yeah, there's a use reducer, right? So we'll learn this like at the end of this section, I think. So basically, hooks are new addition to and hooks are backward compatibility, blah blah. So here use hook is okay. So you can read about it, but basically what it does, it changes the way the app is kind of like is implemented. So it changes something from the app. So here we just import it. Use state, set it to 0, start with a 0, and here we say score, and here set score, right? When you see this underline, it means these were declared but not used. It's not an error. So here we just say paragraph, and we say the score is. I want to give you guys time to ask questions, and so we're just gonna. This is basically what we did. Score is 0, and here we're gonna give it the span. Span, give it a class of score, I think. Class name score. Hopefully that will make it so that it is. Oh, we have one thing missing. Yep, this is not closed out. As you can see, it's the way we want it. And then a button. Add one. Button. Okay, so we have that. So now how do we hook it up? How do we hook everything up so they work? Where do we start? Making it so that it changes.
We're gonna on click.
On click, yep.
Button and click.
Okay, and we need to have a callback function. So what's the next thing we need to call?
Set score.
Set score. What do we put inside the set score?
Score +1.
Okay. It's giving us an issue. And I think maybe we're.
This?
No, this is only for class. On click, yep. This is where the problems go from. Okay, still giving us an issue. Either expression. Okay. Okay, so it's asking us if this is an expression or not. I think we have to put curly brackets here. Everything in curly brackets. Okay. So set score, and then we say take the score, which is this, and add 1. So now if we click it, it's not working. Why is it not working?
Initiate.
Initiate, or you mean initial?
Yeah.
Initial state is equal to 0. That's usually for the reset, right? So there's something else we're missing that we didn't set up yet. That's why it's not changing. What are we missing? The state, we have the state, we have the on click. What's missing from here? So as you can see here, the 0 is hard coded, right? Do we need hard coded 0? So we need to change that, right?
Yeah.
To score.
Score.
Yeah, because that's the state. That's the state, right? So now the state is 5 because we've been clicking it. So if you refresh it, it should be 0, like that. Okay. So that is, we don't need initial state. You could use the initial state like for reset button. So we could just add a button here and do reset button. Just say reset. Reset. Okay. And then here we just do the same thing. We use the on click, but we set the state to initial state. So we say on click equal to expression, and then we give it a callback function, arrow function, anonymous callback function, and we say set score initial state. Okay. Okay, hopefully that works. It's not defined. Oh, we have to say let here. I thought this was a Python. So we can just keep adding and just say reset and just resets to 0. Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions? Okay. So if you guys don't have any question about this one, we can look into the assignment. Yeah, go ahead.
So anytime you want to remove the headcode,
Outcard Hoga is a little bit far. Yeah, it's a little bit faint.
I'll write down the question. Probably not the
okay. Okay. So you want to ask it, or you what did you say?
If you want to remove the like the 0 whatever, you're gonna change it to the current situation, like the score or whatever. Is that how you change it?
Which one? Where?
Like line 13.
Yeah.
It was before it was span class name and it was a 0, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if like the assignment we have numbers there. So anytime you want to remove that, you're gonna replace with what do you have on the line 7, whatever the situation is.
Yes. Yes. So every time you want to change something within here, and there's a score, let's say, and you want that score to change, you have to set it whatever it's in the state. So let's say in the assignment, you guys have like a home and away teams, or you could just name them like a tiger, I think a lion. And you could just say here, tiger score. And then you could have another state that is like a lion score. And then you just take that and set it to the score here, to their score, which is 32, and then you just replace it. That's it. And then it will dynamically change. Like when you do the clicks and all that, it will change that way. And Ahmed said, do we use buttons only? You don't have to use buttons only. You could use here something else. We could use like a span if we want. Doesn't have to be a button. It doesn't matter what the element is. So we can just use this span. But buttons they show that this is a button, especially if you don't have any CSS. But this one is just, you could click it, still it works. See, buttons is just for, it's easier to see that this is actual button. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Any questions about the assignments you guys have? If you want to show your code, feel free. Let me know. We can go over it. Okay. Let's look at the assignment quickly. This was the Instagram clone thing. Let's see. Let's go back here to GitHub. Go to here. The assignment was football score. Okay. Let's clone it. You know what you could do? You could also put it in here. We could just put it right here. We could say import. We could say new sandbox, and then we could say import project. And you could just give it the GitHub link here, and it will just import the whole thing instead of putting it in your computer. Isn't that cool? So the CSS is kind of messed up. It's not responsive, I guess. But yeah, it imported the whole thing. Let me just zoom out. Yeah, this CSS is a little bit messed up. The main thing is just the score changing. We're gonna do one of them so you guys can see. You could try the other ones too. Maybe let's remove some of the CSS so we can see. What is the CSS? The CSS scoreboard, maybe 20%. No, that's fine. 58 is fine. I'm looking for, it's not, okay. Things are not aligned perfectly. I should have worked on that one. So what we need is, we need to change the top row, which is this, I think. It says display flex, space around. Also, we need to make it smaller. This one. So maybe we just need to remove this. Okay, that's better. But yeah, the main important thing is just changing clicking the button and things changing, especially these scores. But yeah, so you just follow these steps. It says import use state, so you just do this, use state. Next step is establish. So establish your application's state with some use state hooks. You will need one for home score and another one for away score. So here we just create the states. So we say use state. So this use state, and I'll just set it to 0. And here we just say home, and then we say set home. You could say set score, or whatever, you could call it whatever you want. And here we say constant. This would be away. You could say set away. And here use state 0. So that's the setup. And then the next step is we need to change the hard-coded values in these divs to accept the dynamic values. So this is what we're talking about. This is hard-coded. So what do we do here? How do we change this?
You put set home.
And how do you know it's home?
It's home score.
Home score. Yep. You see the CSS class. So we just set home here. Okay. And this I said use is stale. This is state. No, I said use state and uppercase. Okay. So set score home. Let's save it. Yep. So as you can see here, it's a 0. What about the Tigers? How do we set their score?
Scored away.
Here it's got away, right? And away. Okay, so 0, 0. Okay. Now we need to increment. You could also try other things too. You could increment these two if you want. But we need to increment it. And we already have the buttons here. We have a home touchdown. You could do 7, let's say, and then home field goal, which is 3. So when you click this, the score should be 7. When you click this, you should add 3 to it. So you should keep incrementing that way. This one is also the same. So you use these buttons to do that. You have 4 buttons here, right? I think we just did that so you guys can understand that. Any questions so far? Okay, and what you need to do is you always need to read the README. So that's what I usually do. I just go ahead and just, read this whole thing. If it's same as the last time, you could just skip it, but if it's the first time, it's good to read it. This project allows you to practice the concepts and techniques learned in this module and apply them in the concrete project. This module explored React components and React components state. During this module, you studied what React is, what React component are, and how to build them, what a state is, and how to make components stateful, and how to change the component state with a click handler. In your project, you demonstrate proficiency in these subjects and principles by creating application using each of these. Okay. Okay, get it. Okay. So in this project, you build an app that displays a scoreboard for football game. There will be 2 buttons for each team. One will increment that team's score by 3 points for the field goal, and the others will increment that team's score by 7 for the touchdown, assuming that you have like the other point. The CSS is already done for you. You should focus on efforts and functionality of this app. These are the steps to set up the project. Make sure every time you fork it, you clone it, and then you say, you go to the folder that you have the files, and then you say npm install or yarn install. And then after that, you create your branch, and then you start working on it. All that stuff. Okay, minimum viable product would be hold each team's current score in the state. That would be first step. Render each team's current score that's in the state to the DOM. Be able to click at different buttons to increment and increase. So the last one is the second step is add team's score to the component. So I'm just kind of clearing it up, breaking it down. Render the score to the DOM, and then add click functionality. And then here's if you want to do something extra, right? So that's what I usually do every time I have a new assignment. Any questions so far?
If you want to reset it home and away at the same time, do you have to how do you like add it, like both of them in one initial state of resetting it so that it knows both of them to be resetted?
So to do that, if you want to set Yeah,
on
go ahead.
the click of the reset button.
So if you want to do that, it's best to create another function. So if you're trying to use two states and you're trying to do set state, it's best to create another function. So if you just create a function, call it something like reset, and then here you could just say you put initial state here if you want, or you could just put it here, initial state. Initial state, you can not call it whatever you want, 0, and then here you could just say set home 0, set home to 0, and then here is set away to 0.
Okay.
No, actually, I mean initial state, sorry. Initial state. So we both set to initial state. I mean, you could just say 0. It doesn't have to be initial state. Okay. So now when you call this function, it should, it's not div. Oh, what am I doing? So when you call this function, it should set both of them. So you just put another button here that sets both of them. Should set to both of them. So you could put another button here. On click. You could just say on click. When you call the arrow function, you could just say call that function reset, like that. And also we have to put this in brackets. Yeah, like that. And that will reset it. Okay, there's nothing there now, but if we put something here, like 3, save it, and reset, 60 reset it. We put here another 3, we save it, they're both 3. And now if we go to reset, maybe we can see it clearly. It resets both of them to 0, right? So we're just using this function to set both of them to 0. Any questions so far? So this assignment is a little bit easier, other than if you wanna like if you wanna make this one the actual score kind of like increase to whatever, and also if you wanna like do things like quarters. So if you wanna change the quarter every time it goes from, you know how the sports work, basically from 0 to 10, like I don't know, certain amount of time, it turns into second quarter, then third quarter, and then fourth quarter. And then after that, when it reaches the end of fourth quarter, it resets to 0 here. And then it starts from first quarter. Yeah, so that's kind of more advanced. But yeah, in general, the assignment is a little bit easier than, because everything is already set up for you here. There's not much to do. So hopefully you guys can finish all this today and submit it. So I'm expecting you guys to finish it today so that on Monday we can get started with props, which is, props are more like, if I give you as an example, it's more like closures and callbacks for React, okay? So that's why I'm trying to make sure you guys understand the setup, understand that all these clicks, you get this part, it's a little bit easier. The click never changes. You just have to like basically change whatever's here. How the setup works, what is a class, all that stuff, the use state. And then we go to props. And then hopefully you guys, you definitely will not get the props right away. If you get the props right away, that's amazing, because I didn't. It took me like a while. It took me like 2 months, 3 months to really understand what props are. Like I couldn't even understand what exactly they're doing and how they actually work. But you just have to keep doing monkey see, monkey do for like a month straight or 2 months until you just wrap it around your head like understand it. So prepare yourself for that. It's a little bit more abstract, but it's more like, okay, let's just go through it and then look back. Like, for example, if you look back now, maybe like closures, you might not still understand what closure is, but you kind of have a general idea of what it does if you look back at your notes and stuff. For example, like how to set up HTML file. Like at the beginning, you guys some of you didn't know how to set up HTML file, what it does, all that stuff, how to connect it to CSS, how to set up your CSS. But now if you look back, it's like a little bit easier. So it's all gonna come down together. But inshallah, we're gonna start it on Monday, and then hopefully you're rested. You took Sunday, you finished just quick today, and then submit it. I'm expecting at the end of today, you guys have this in your GitHub, because we don't have other things to do. So any other questions? All right, I'll let you guys go. Keep working on this. This afternoon, I will try to have a meeting with you. If not, I'm expecting just to get the assignments and then move on, inshallah. On Monday, we can start something interesting, inshallah. All right. Okay, I'll see you guys this afternoon or on Monday, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent.